All right. Are you ready to tackle the topic that so many entrepreneurs struggle with, myself included? We are going to talk all about imposter syndrome today. What is it? How do you know if you're battling with it? And then how do you take care of it from both a mindset perspective and really this spiritual perspective? Because we're going to kind of pull back the layers and see what actually is going on when we are talking about imposter syndrome. So, as we dive in, let's first talk about how does Webster's dictionary define it? Because I think it's this word that's thrown around a lot, and I don't know that we always even know exactly what it is. So, Webster's defines it as this: persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments accompanied by the fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of one's ongoing success. So, if we really think about this, that means no matter what level you get to, you might be watching somebody who you are admiring online because they have figured out business and they are at this level further along than you. And I promise you, there's a really good chance that at some point they wrestle with imposter syndrome. Now, I also want to say this. Just because you wrestle with something doesn't mean you have a problem with it, because the quicker we get at taking our thoughts captive and making them in alignment with what God says, the quicker we get out of that. And so I think there's this ongoing thought that, like, well, because I had the thought that I'm wrong, or because I had the thought, or I had to wrestle it out a little bit, that maybe there's something like off with me. Maybe I'm insecure, or whatever that may be. No, that's part of it. It's that these thoughts can come and, like, the arrows can be thrown at you. Now, what you do with those arrows is what matters. So if you have wrestled with imposter syndrome, you are not alone. In fact, we're going to talk about where this even came from, this idea. So in 1978, there were two psychologists, they were women, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes. They first studied this whole concept about the imposter. But here's the really cool part. Number one, it started by studying high achieving women. I mean, come on, like, is there any irony in that? So they actually studied high achieving women when they started to study this concept of this imposter, but they didn't call it syndrome. And I love this. They called it the imposter phenomenon. Now, I'm just going to let you chew on that for a second. Like, I don't know when I think of the word syndrome, I think of, like, there's a problem. When I think of the word phenomenon, I don't necessarily think of the word problem. So I want you to think about that. The women, the psychologists who actually coined this phrase, imposter phenomenon, that's what they called it. They didn't call it this syndrome. And they studied it in high achieving women. Now, they have since found this can happen to male or female, but it very highly happens to high achieving women. And if you're listening to this podcast, guess what? You most likely are, like me, a high performing, high achieving, highly ambitious woman. Now, the work that I've been doing internally and with my own coaches and counselors is peeling back the layers of where does that come from and why am I behaving this way? Like, was this just how God created me, or are there maybe things? And that'll be more that we will continue to talk about through the upcoming episodes and throughout this next year, of unveiling the why, right? There's the what, right? But then there's the why. And then what do we do with that? But imposter phenomenon didn't actually start out as being called imposter syndrome. I think that in and of itself is something to just sit with for a second if you've ever wrestled with it, that perhaps we think often like there's something wrong with me, or get it together, girl. Like, you've done this and you've done that. But what if it's more of this revelation as opposed to fixing yourself? So here are 3 signs that you might be wrestling with this imposter phenomenon. Number 1, do you believe that you have fooled others into thinking that you're more skilled than you are? I can't tell you how many times I work with incredibly gifted, talented, anointed, educated women who are full of good stuff, and they'll get an opportunity to shine that, and something creeps in like, who do you think you are? You're not as good as you think you are. You don't know what you think you know. It's almost like that same question that the enemy asked, did God really say? It's like, do you really think you're all that special? So, do you ever believe that you have fooled somebody into thinking that you are more skilled than you are? Number two, sometimes you maybe wonder if your success is just luck or maybe charm. Maybe it was just good timing. Maybe other people helped you along the way and you really feel like, yeah, maybe it wasn't all me. Really, and all these things can have factors, right? I don't, not luck, I don't believe in luck, but favor. And sometimes it really just doesn't make sense. But if you are not really ever willing to actually accept that maybe it was your own ability, maybe you had a role to play and it wasn't just by chance or just by God loving you and it just being good, right? I know for me, I wrestled with this a little bit in network marketing because in my first 3 years of network marketing, I still made it to the top, 1%, and it was good. But in my second go at network marketing, I excelled very quickly, had $1 million business in just 2 months. And it was like, do I know what I'm doing? Or is this just like, this is that, like, is this just God's favor? Is this just like, and they always say in network marketing that timing matters. And I use that to grow my team. And you got to get in on the ground floor level. But while I do believe that there might be a little bit of truth to that, I really got stirred up. And like the Lord was like, showing me and had to show me that no, like you've actually been doing this for 3 years. You just didn't see the fruit of it. You have been planting seeds for a long time and you saw a lot of fruit, but you didn't see this kind of overnight, air quote, overnight success. So if you ever wonder if your success is just God's favor and just timing or other people or whatever, maybe you really wrestle with seeing yourself the way God sees you.